I owe all of you an apology today. I am so sorry. And I've been thinking about this on my entire drive home tonight, and I finally needed to come out and just be honest with you all. April 6th, I made a tweet, and it read that unfortunately, this is where Ty Gibbs is going to be the week that he picks up his first NASCAR Cup Series win. And I'll be honest, I was making my work in an attempt to jinx him. I was hoping I was going to jinx the guy, and unfortunately I breathed it into existence, and Ty Gibbs is now a Cup Series winner following today's race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Now, credit where credit is due. You guys know I do not like Ty Gibbs. I want to first of all say congratulations to all Ty Gibbs fans, because I know you guys have been waiting a long time. So it was really nice in that sense to see him get his first win for the fans. But you guys know I don't like him. I have not been a fan of him ever since his, O'Reilly Series days. And of course, coming into Cup, he had struggled a lot for 3 years, and I enjoyed it a lot, but I knew his win was coming, and I always expected it to be at Bristol, and sure enough, he goes and wins at Bristol. Now let's talk about the race itself, because in stage one was really hesitant. I didn't think the race was going to overall be that good, because after stage one I wasn't very impressed. It of course started with the PJ1 on the bottom being where everybody wanted to be. That's where the grip was, and if you had moved up a lane into the outside, you were just going to be going backwards. I mean, we saw it with Ty Gibbs, the winner himself. He went backwards early on in the race when he was stuck on the top. It seemed like he had a lap to make the top work, and then it was just doomed. So it was just a lot of single file on the bottom. Of course, as the run went on, we started to see a little bit of movement, and the lap traffic kind of had to force some drivers to move around. But I wasn't overly impressed in stage one. I was honestly more interested in watching the Masters at that point, and shout out to Rory McIlroy picking up the win over there. But yeah, I mean, just wasn't really thrilled by it at that point. And we get through the race, stage 2 and stage 3. We saw the outside become a viable option. We saw the rubber put down, and drivers actually able to make it work, and the race became way more enjoyable at that point, in my personal opinion. So I really enjoyed overall the race as a whole, because it did get a lot better. There was more passing in stage 2 and 3 when the rubber built up towards the top, and there was some grip up there, and you didn't have to just be forced on the bottom line. And yeah, like I said, overall made it for a way more enjoyable experience. Now, I can say for certain Ryan Blaney's pit crew made that race a lot more interesting, because of the fact that they're just so bad. That 12 team's not good, man. They keep making mistakes. I think they said it on the broadcast. They give up over 80 positions in the pits this season. Is absolutely insane. After how many races have we even done? Probably 8 or 9, maybe. But yeah, that's not a good look on that team. And we saw how good the 12 car was, because if they didn't make those mistakes, Ryan Blaney probably dominates the majority of this race. Obviously, Kyle Larson led more than half of that, but we saw once Ryan Blaney finally got the lead, he was able to just drive away and hold on, and no one really had anything for him. It was either Gibbs or Larson that were going to be able to do something on a restart, but obviously it didn't even come down to that at the end. It came down to just, the 12 and the 5 making the wrong call of pitting. They really should have stayed out. But Ty Gibbs was the one that stayed out and benefited the most. But that, and not only Ty Gibbs, but Todd Gilliland really proved what's wrong still with our product on the short tracks. And we just, we got so much work to do, because in no world, for, say, Todd Gilliland, who, shout out to him, had a great finish, which was great to see, but they took 2 tires and they were able to hold on to a top 10 in that final stage with no issue at all, where in any other generation of car, that's just not going to be possible with proper tire wear. So even, Goodyear's made some significant strides in the right direction for this tire and for the series, and has put on some, more acceptable short track races in the last couple of years. But we're in year 5 of this next gen car, and it just feels like we're still stuck with the same issues that we had 5 years ago. On road courses too, we see the same situation play out there, but it's just, yeah, unfortunately the tires just didn't wear out, and we saw what we saw, and passing's harder. But like I said, as we had more lanes kind of build, it did become more enjoyable. I know like a lot of people are like, we want old Bristol where it's just you have to move the guy out of the way in front of you and you just have to fight for the bottom all race. I don't really prefer that. I have a Duolingo pop up here. Oh my goodness, get off of there. Okay. But yeah, I prefer Bristol the way it has been the last 15 years or so, where it's, you can make the bottom work, but you also have the option to jump up to the top. That's the Bristol I like, and that's what we had today. So overall, after stage 2 and 3 really improved the product, I definitely enjoyed the race a lot more, and if I had to give it like a score out of 10, stage 1 would have been like a 2 or a 3, and overall after stage 2 and 3 played out, I would give it like a 6.5 to a 7. It got really that much more enjoyable in those final 2 stages. Now, how about those final restarts as well, man? Those were fun to watch, with Kyle Larson going 3 wide around the top on tires, trying to make some ground on 2 freshies, while Blaney had 4 fresh tires trying to come through as well. And they both did come through and get to Ty Gibbs, but obviously clean air is king at the end of the day, and they still struggle to pass him, even with a fresh tire advantage, which is again the problem with this car. In any other generation, Ty Gibbs is going to be cooked there, and anybody else would have been cooked there. But it was still fun to watch, and a great finish. Ryan Blaney, getting a run on Gibbs coming to the line. I knew at the white flag, I was like, Ty Gibbs is probably going to win this race, because Ryan Blaney isn't quite that guy that's gonna, get really physical with you for a win. And I felt like to win that race there from his position, you were gonna have to be physical. I wish we had Kyle Larson there, because in like the spot of the 12th, because I think he would have gotten physical somehow, slid up the track, used up the 54. Short track racing at the end of the day, it's about beating and banging, so I was hoping to see a little bit of that, but it was still a fun finish. The 12 sliding across the line, Ty Gibbs coming through to get his first win. And I will say, man, his interview after the race was really good. I enjoyed his interview, and kind of proved to me that he has grown up and he isn't just a little baby anymore, like he has with his attitude over the last few years, it felt like. But here's like neutral, and here's like hatred. And he went from like over here on the maximum to kind of like over here. He actually had a good shift for me on my ranking today, with how he handled himself and conducted himself in the post race, and not even on the racetrack. I was like, okay, you know what? He has grown up a bit and seems to have a better attitude and just a more tolerable personality. One thing I did enjoy about this race, though, was the fact that the drivers actually had to fight their cars a bit. Even with the tires not really wearing, you saw drivers having to fight their cars. They made some mistakes. I mean, we had SVG lost a car on his own, and some people I'm sure are like, well, yeah, SVG sucks. Well, we also had a champion, Chase Elliott, who also just won 2 weeks ago, completely lose a car on his own as well, and spin around. And we even had Christopher Bell, who put it in the fence. And shout out Christopher Bell, takes the massive L of the day. He speeds, and then a few laps later on a restart, bends it into the wall and kills the toe link, and race screwed from that point for the 20 team. So Christopher Bell did, really a absolutely masterclass job of ruining his team's day in that 20 car, and I'm sure he's not happy about it, of course. But that was pretty bad for the 20 car. At the end of the day, though, my main takeaway is just the fact that what we learned was there's still just a lot of work to be done, and I just don't know. Like, we gotta take some more responsibility off of Goodyear and really get NASCAR to focus on, okay, what can we do to our car? Of course, they have increased the horsepower. We had higher horsepower in Bristol, but I want to still see more and just more overall work done on this car to get a little bit better of a package. We shouldn't have to worry about Goodyear and tire wear, because the way the tires are built now, they don't naturally wear like they used to. And then sometimes when we get these high tire wear races, they don't fall off naturally in those either. They go from like 0 to 100 on the wear, and then it's just like a flip of a switch and you're just dead. And it's not like they naturally just progressively fall off throughout a run. It's so strange, and I really wish, man, I'm a short track Gen 6 Glazer. That's what I grew up with, outside of the terrible package they ran at some points. But when it peaked, it was so good with the tire wear, the horsepower, the cars slipping and sliding around, and the racing was so much better, and I really hope that eventually we can get back to that. But I mean, honestly, I think that is going to take an entirely different car. I said it a few weeks ago, actually. The next gen significantly improved intermediate mile and a half racing, but it significantly, decreased the quality of short tracks and super speedways and road courses, and we just need to continue to work on all of those. We also have an update on the Kyle Busch crash out watch, because my man Kyle Busch, two-time champion, we're beefing with Riley Herbst, who, by the way, qualified top 5. I don't know how in the world that happened, and actually ran top 10 for a chunk of the race until he faded. He wrecked Kyle Busch, and then Kyle Busch at the end decides to turn him around when he got the opportunity. Fair game at that point, of course. But my man Kyle Busch went from Joe Gibbs, two-time champion, to whatever's happening now and beefing with Riley Herbst of all people. It is not good if you're a Kyle Busch fan right now. And I feel so bad for you guys and Kyle Busch himself. And we're going to look at the point standings now as well before we wrap things up here. And Tyler Reddick still at the top of the board at 62 points in front of Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin there in P3. The top 3 did not change, but Ty Gibbs with the win gains 2 spots over Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson gains 3, moves up to P6. And also Hendrick Motorsports, where just downright terrible today. Kyle Larson was really the only relevant driver of the team. Elliott was nowhere. Bowman was nowhere. William Byron, we had a lot of TV time just because it felt like he was getting lapped every 30 laps. It was so bad. Bubba Wallace moves back up 3 spots. Christopher Bell, obviously self-inflicted, gives up 2. But looking at the Chase Lake cutoff, SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, terrible day for him. He's just not good at Bristol. He drops into the final spot, 1 point above Chase Briscoe, so it's really tight right there. And Daniel Suarez actually had arguably his worst track, has a top 15 day, and manages to gain a spot in the points as well, and Chastain down 2 spots. So yeah, Trackhouse again, just not looking so hot. And Alex Bowman in his return obviously didn't go very well, but I wouldn't put that on him. It looked like Hendrick as a whole missed it, and whatever the 5 team did, they obviously hit it on a way better stride than the rest of the team. Nonetheless, yeah, I didn't enjoy stage 1, but I enjoyed pretty well everything else, and I still think we've got a lot of work to do, but it overall was a decent race. And I'm looking forward to Kansas mile and a half next week. I hope it's better than Las Vegas, because the 1 mile and a half we have had this season was pretty mid. Kansas is usually a banger every time we go there in this next gen car, so I am hopeful we're going to have another good race this weekend. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. If you're a Ty Gibbs fan, congratulations to you. If you're a hater, I'm sorry. I owe you an apology for my tweet. But that does it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.